A thread by Pat Scopoliti. 5 December 2020, MAGA analysis, hashtag restore the Constitution. Correcting today's monstrous crime, part 2. I'm going to practice a new skill right now. Without any further study for the moment, I'm going to expand the view, mark it up, and then comment. Join me. Do your own markup too. On December 4th, AZ House Republicans tweeted out a news release statement from the Speaker addressing calls for the Arizona legislature to overturn the 2020 certified election results. Pat continues. Before I get started, that's how today's work is going to go. That is, I will actually study together with you. I'm going to try to keep this coherent as we go, but, and I have to talk about this for a moment, it's taken us a long time to get here. Not only do we not know our jobs as governmental power delegators, our hires, those fellow citizens we delegated the power of governance to, also do not know their jobs. Hell, I confess, I just learned yesterday that I delegate governance to the governors. I'm not quite sure why that word hit me so hard yesterday. Maybe, as I said, it's because I can relate it from business. Followers do not delegate power to their leaders. The very idea that the governors, legislators, and judges are our leaders is 100% wrong. Leaders delegate power to their followers. And then, as we discussed, it is on us, the leaders, the American citizens who make up we the people. We must hold our delegates. It's a word. Wow. A moment or more or two on this. To delegate is an action, a verb. It is what every American citizen does in empowering our government. We shift some of our powers over to them so they may perform the hired task of governance. We delegate, and they are a thing, a noun, yep, a delegate, delegates, or even they are individually a delegate, in plural delegates, individually a delegee, and in plural delegees. This is so important. We have two absolutely identical words for it. If we have any English teachers who can help, where and when should we use one term versus the other? All right, I'm done with my markups. I'll dig in immediately below. I just realized, though, I didn't finish up on the long time it took us to get here. I'm 60. If you take my date of 1913, it means it started 47 years before I was born. We'll come back to that. As you see, there are 3 screenshots I had to use, and of the 3, this first is the busiest. All right, got it right here, guys. Let's move my little thing out of the way. There are 3 screenshots. All right, this is first is the busiest. Tell you what, I'll give you all 3 right now in case you'd like to focus here, but I'll keep going one at a time below. All right, let's make this happen. This will be slow going, guys. And remember, I only read the PH article for the first time yesterday, so this is all new to me. Here's the first markup now for slow digestion. I expect sober, I was about to say leadership, but I don't mean that. I expect sober followership from my delegees, don't you? A breathtaking request. All right, so this week, Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, and others representing President Donald John Trump came to Arizona with a breathtaking request. Breathtaking request? Breathtaking? Not a student of the law. I'm not sure if that was in the Constitution or statutes. Don't recall it. Who's speaking to us? One Rusty Bowers. And evidently, Rusty had a power martini before he got to work writing and obviously loved his judgment over this request. Mere request, we should add. And as such, the insubordination of us, his leaders, well, he calls us followers. This is almost always the response of those power drunk souls who have never been held to account the moment it first occurs. How dare you make this breathtaking request? And what is this breathtaking request? Overturn the certified results and deliver them to Trump. I also don't know about the word forbids. The rule of law forbids us to do that, they say. It could be that an Arizona rule of law forbids this. I mean, maybe, But if we listen to power drunk Rusty, we'll never know. He has already drawn judgment himself. Who remembers circular reasoning and the fallacy of tautology? Here are the steps of Rusty's thinking. 1. Trump team made claims. 2. The election was tainted by fraud, but 3. Presented only theories. 4. Not proof. Emphasis added. Oh, let's look at this. This is unreal. All right. Mr. Giuliani and Ms. Ellis made their case here at least twice. On Monday at an unofficial public gathering hosted by a small group of legislators, and again on Tuesday during a closed door meeting at the state capitol with Republican leaders from both chambers of the legislature. Both times, the Trump team made claims that the election was tainted by fraud, but presented only theories, not proof. U.S. Attorney General William P. Barr said on Tuesday that he too has not seen fraud on a scale that could have affected a different outcome of the election. Not exactly what Bill Barr said. And then this letter continues, even if such evidence existed, the Arizona legislature simply couldn't do what is being asked. Under our state's constitution, the legislature can act only when it is in session, and the legislature could call itself into a special session only with the support of a bipartisan supermajority of its members. Pat continues, take it apart. A claim can just be a technical term like an insurance policy claim, but even there, a claim may be fraudulent itself. Dripping with power happy sarcasm, as we can see from the rest of the sentence, it here means claimed but did not prove. Does Rusty have legal standing to make that judgment? Perhaps he is so empowered by the manner in which we gave him our delegation. When you delegate something, that and the power to do it are a delegation, which is also confusingly a group of delegated people. To delegate something is not, however, a and once and done kind of thing. We may always remove from him the delegated power we gave. That is always our right. And in his execution of the powers we've given him, granted him, we may be pleased or displeased. Needless to say, I am sure I am not pleased. No, I don't live in Arizona, and that's an important point. As the Arizona House Speaker, who knew, Rusty can employ his delegated powers to affect the outcome of my election, not of me, but rather of my president. Who knew? You'd better bet I'm taking this personally. This is my constitutional republic, and Rusty appears to me to be using circular reasoning to justify his theft of our election and of the democracy by which we complete it. Did you follow the circular reasoning? The president's team claims that fraud occurred, but Rusty tells us it was only theories, not proof. Another way to explain tautology is that the conclusion is already there inside the premise. Rusty starts with already having disproved the claims by terming them theories. I can't take the time to go over the hellacious tripe in the larger red box, nor the apostasy of A.G. Barr, whose name I've placed in box as well. Perhaps one of you will take the time to work through Rusty's illogic and, in fact, pure cover for not doing his job. I will turn to screenshots 2 and 3, and I don't believe they'll take quite as long, but we'll see. Before we do, a couple of process points are important. First, to claim to be a role model is a very big thing. I do it with humility to the degree I'm able, and always with proof. I boldly claim that if you go over yesterday's lesson in fighting methods, you can see I am living up to them here. It has always been my rule to never teach anything that I cannot do myself. I boldly ask that you imagine me speaking face to face with Rusty. We're here at Twitter, and he's likely not courageous enough and maybe not smart enough to follow this work. Were I there confronting him in a public forum of law, my decorum would be different. I wouldn't call him Rusty, I'd call him Mr. Speaker. As Sun Tzu teaches us, both heaven and earth always have a say in how things go. Heaven is the righteousness of the real rule of law in this case. Earth is the forum, be it in the Arizona House or here at Twitter. Earth has hills and valleys. You fight differently in each. But make no mistake, the fight is the fight. Ha! I have to share again how much my father hated climbing to the top of some jungle hill where no man could possibly ever have been before and finding a sign there, Kilroy was here. His fight in New Guinea was the same in the Philippines and in Japan when he got there. We lost Vietnam with abject failure, but it too was the same fight, and we fight that fight here now on the home front. The fight is just the fight, no matter where or when. Here at home, we need a different kit. We need different training, preparation, different evolutions. Before we rejoin the fight, we need a bit of help, encouragement. A perennial favorite is Al Pacino's incredible "We Fight for Inches" speech. Link in the thread, Al Pacino's inspirational speech from Any Given Sunday, We Fight for Inches. At the deepest, highest, most profound level of all, though, believer and non believer alike must hear the call from St. Paul's letter to the church at Ephesus. I quote in full Ephesians 6:10 through 20, King James Version. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Therefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand, therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints, and for me, that utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. Pat continues, I find it fantastically interesting that so many people quote only verse 10 through 18 and miss what is to me the most important message of all. Paul was in Rome, in prison, on trial for his life when he wrote this. He was an ambassador in bonds, literally. As a full Roman citizen, he had employed his right of imperium and demanded a trial at law, the outcome of which he knew would be his death. Yet, the inch that he was there to fight for was the commandment to stand and speak boldly as he ought to speak. This message comes down to us roaring over the centuries in between, roaring with the claim of freedom. You may kill me, but you may not silence me. In chains no matter, I will stand and speak boldly as I ought to speak. Let's return now to Mr. Speaker Rusty Bauer's words. Here is my second screenshot. Mr. Speaker explains kindly that our request, even were there to be evidence, still could simply not be fulfilled. Alas, evidence be damned. We have the power of the process we employ. You are denied. And I say back, Mr. Speaker, let us imagine you have the letter of the law quite right. Let us imagine your niceties of process are precisely as you have written them on paper. You have letters. Okay, sir. You have not the spirit of the law. America is better than this. We have known that we must lift our voice as a people. We have known we must take our message to the streets sooner or later. We know. I say that not only the people of Arizona, but of all America should arrive and stand before the Arizona House to push the request further. Consider Publius Hulda's statement here, quote, so the statutory framework recognizes that selecting the presidential electors can get messy and that there would be fights over the electors in the states and in Congress. We are working through this process right now, end quote. Mr. Speaker Rusty Bauer speaks to us saying that even if there was evidence and even if the Arizona legislature convened itself, note how he says he keys in on the term supermajority, a purely political thing, if ever there was one, it couldn't provide the recourse the president's team seeks. And what is Mr. Speaker's reasoning? He invokes the very passage from the Constitution we've been studying, which says he doesn't have to if he doesn't want to, and since he doesn't want to, he can't, and you can't force me. Why, if I didn't know better, I might assert that Mr. Speaker's tautology is positively circular in nature. I should have underlined the last sentence in the red box too. Mr. Speaker's dripping sarcasm is such that it must do. Even Rusty proud of himself. Here's the last screenshot of this living case of constitutional warfare. We cannot today explore the problem of federalism we meet here. What if the election were to turn on a single state's vote, but that vote had been completely defrauded? From the letter, no election is perfect. And if there were evidence of illegal votes or an improper count, then Arizona law provides a process to contest the election, a lawsuit under state law. But the law does not authorize the legislature to reverse the results of an election. Next underlined sentence. In the eyes of many in the world, this every 4-year ceremony we accept as normal is nothing less than a miracle. What a jackass. All right. Pat continues. State law has a process, we're told, but what of our federal election? That's in Mr. Speaker's hands. Going back to the inches message, we'll have all the time we need to work out the true rule of law at both federal and state levels. Our last point is the most painful to me personally. I am a natural law kind of guy, so you don't hear me talk about miracles much, but I'm also a father, and I can tell you for me, it was a miracle when my sons were born. I was there every moment of those 2 miracles. That Mr. Speaker merely rusty desecrates this sacred quote is beyond reprehensible. If the First Amendment didn't stop me, I'd want to disallow Rusty, to quote Reagan, ever. Rusty is not for the orderly transfer of authority. Rusty is a democracy thief and destroyer. Hearing these sanctimonious, self-righteous claims is the sound of the wolf howling its right to protect the sheep from wolves. He argues for the bulwark of continuity after telling us evidence wouldn't matter. No convening can occur, and if it did, it couldn't deliver. Continuity of criminality is no example of rule of law. It is the rule of unlaw. When a stolen election defrauding both the people of Arizona and of all America is sustained in this scorn-worthy manner, the blood of patriots who died for freedom cries out from their graves. Oh my, class, I never heard the bell ring, and here it is, 12 noon out here in the Eastern Standard Time. We know that breaking news changes everything. I had no idea we'd have a class practicum arise so instantly. And as we say here, practice trumps preparation. Not that I'm downgrading preparation, never. We fight the way we train. Also, tomorrow, we'll return to what Sun Tzu calls the war temple. That's where we do our studying and calculating, our homework. We'll pick up where we left off yesterday. This thread ends at number 55. Today's work was an instant practical application of yesterday's lesson. Here again is that link, also video on this channel. If you haven't, you really want to go over to yesterday's work.
I will be the greatest president that God ever created.